The idea that exercise is inherently unpleasant is widespread, but it turns out that much of this discomfort is not a fixed reality. Rather, it's a malleable perception shaped by how our brains interpret effort, stress, and reward. What scientists are beginning to uncover is a remarkably hopeful truth. With the right approach, we can train our brains to actually enjoy physical activity. This emerging understanding is rooted in the science of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change its structure and function in response to experience. At the center of this discovery is the fact that mental discomfort during exercise is not a static barrier. It's something that can be reshaped, managed, and even reversed. When you first begin a new physical activity, your brain registers it as unfamiliar, challenging, and often threatening to your internal sense of stability. That's why many people interpret the early stages of exercise, elevated heart rate, muscle tension, labored breathing, as signs that something is wrong. But these sensations are simply the body adapting, and the brain can learn to interpret them differently. This is where neuroplasticity comes into play. The brain is not hardwired to hate exertion. It simply responds to what it has learned from past experiences. Each time you engage in a small bout of physical activity, especially one that pushes you just slightly outside your comfort zone, you're exposing your brain to a controlled dose of stress. If done consistently, this gradually builds new neural pathways that reinterpret that same stress not as a threat, but as a signal of vitality, progress, and control. The positive side of this is powerful. Over time, these repeated exposures create a feedback loop. What was once perceived as aversive begins to feel satisfying. The endorphin system becomes more responsive. Dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, begins to fire more readily in anticipation of and during exercise. With each repetition, each small effort, the brain learns that movement can be pleasurable, sometimes even addictive in a healthy way. Instead of dreading the start of a workout, your mind begins to anticipate the benefits, the clarity, the boost in mood, the sense of agency. Interestingly, this transformation doesn't require dramatic changes. In fact, scientists emphasize that small, manageable doses of effort are more effective than going too hard too soon. Trying to force the body into extreme performance often backfires, reinforcing the idea that exercise is punishing. But walking up a hill, taking the stairs, or stretching for 10 minutes a day sends gentle signals to the brain that these sensations are safe and tolerable. And once they become tolerable, they soon become enjoyable. This has wide-ranging implications not only for individuals, but for public health. If people stop viewing exercise as a battle of willpower and start seeing it as a trainable skill, far more people could build sustainable fitness habits. The barrier to entry becomes lower. Exercise no longer feels like a punishment for poor health or weight gain. It becomes a reward in and of itself. It becomes a source of confidence, identity, and even joy. Moreover, this concept taps into a broader truth about human psychology, that we are far more adaptable than we believe. Discomfort, when encountered strategically and with purpose, can be the very catalyst that reshapes how we see ourselves. And as our brains learn to embrace movement, we unlock a version of ourselves that no longer resists effort, but thrives on it. Ultimately, training your brain to like exercise isn't about tricking yourself or ignoring the hard parts. It's about embracing a science-backed strategy to reshape your relationship with physical activity. It's about reclaiming agency over how your brain reacts to challenge. The discomfort doesn't disappear overnight, but it transforms from an obstacle into a signal that you're building something powerful. And that's something to feel genuinely optimistic about.